The twin moons of Never Light cast an ethereal glow across the crystalline spires of Luminar Palace, their light fracturing into 1,000 colors against the polished obsidian floors. Thalen stood before the grand throne, his azure skin luminescent under the ambient light, his silver-flecked eyes surveying the ornate chamber with barely concealed awe. He had traveled across 3-star systems to reach this place, the last true kingdom of the celestial ancients, where the legendary celestial heart was said to rest. His people needed it desperately. Without its power, the moon colonies would wither and die within a generation. "You are far from home, Blue One," Queen Zephyra's voice filled the chamber, deep and melodious yet edged with steel. Her crimson skin gleamed like polished ruby as she leaned forward, silver-adorned fingers gripping the armrests of her throne. "Few from the moon colonies dare venture to Never Light." Thalen bowed low, his traveler's cloak pooling around his feet. "Your Majesty, I come seeking the celestial heart, my people." "I know why you come," she interrupted, rising from her throne. Her elaborate headdress cast dancing shadows across her sharp features. "Many seek the heart, none return with it." The assembled court, nobles with skin in various hues of red and violet, whispered among themselves. Outsiders rarely approached the throne so boldly, especially those with moon-blue skin. "Mother," came a softer voice from beside the throne. Thalen's gaze shifted to the figure who had remained silent until now. Princess Sorana stepped forward, her lavender skin shimmering with delicate patterns that swirled from her temples down to her graceful neck. Unlike her mother's crimson intensity, the princess emanated a gentler light, though no less commanding. "Perhaps we should hear his plea," she suggested, her pearl-hued eyes meeting Thalen's with unexpected warmth. Queen Zephyra considered her daughter for a moment before returning her attention to Thalen. "The celestial heart belongs to Never Light. It has protected our world for millennia." "I don't seek to take it permanently," Thalen explained, rising from his bow. "The ancients designed the heart to be shared between our worlds. Without its energy, the atmospheric shields protecting our colonies will fail." "And why should I care for the fate of moon dwellers?" The queen's words were cold, calculated. Princess Sorana stepped closer, her flowing gown of silver and twilight blue catching the light. "Because, Mother, the ancient texts speak of balance. If one realm fails, the other follows." Thalen couldn't hide his surprise at the princess's knowledge, or her willingness to speak in his defense. Their eyes met briefly, and something unspoken passed between them, a flicker of recognition that transcended their different worlds. Queen Zephyra's laugh cut through the moment like a blade. "My daughter reads too many ancient scrolls and not enough practical history." She descended the throne steps with deliberate grace. "Moon Dweller, your request is denied. The heart stays where it belongs." Thalen felt the weight of desperation settle on his shoulders. Thousands would die if he failed. "Your Majesty, please." "However," she continued, circling him with predatory interest, "our laws do provide one alternative." A smile curved her lips, but it didn't reach her eyes. "The challenge of the Guardian." A collective gasp rippled through the court. Even Princess Sorana paled slightly, her luminous skin dimming. "Mother, no one has survived the Guardian's trials in 7 generations," she protested. "Precisely," Queen Zephyra replied, "which is why the heart remains ours." Thalen straightened his posture, squaring his shoulders despite the chill that ran through him at the court's reaction. "What is this challenge?" The queen's smile widened. 3 trials set by the Guardian of Twilight. Complete them, and you may borrow the heart for 1 lunar cycle." "And if I fail?" Thalen asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Then you join the countless others who rest eternally in the shadow planes." She returned to her throne, settling into it with satisfaction. "But I offer additional incentive. Succeed, and I will grant you not only the heart but also my daughter's hand in marriage, securing a permanent alliance between our realms." "Mother," Sorana's voice betrayed genuine shock, "I am not a prize to be." "Silence," Queen Zephyra commanded. "Our bloodline has always been part of the sacred covenant. The Guardian will accept no less." Thalen looked toward Princess Sorana, seeing the conflict in her expression. He had come for the heart, not a bride, yet the queen's terms left no room for negotiation. And though he had only just met the princess, there was something about her that stirred his curiosity, a depth behind those pearl eyes that suggested she was far more than a political token. "I accept the challenge," Thalen declared, his voice unwavering despite the murmurs of disbelief from the courtiers. "But I would speak with the princess about this arrangement. If I am to risk my life for both the heart and her hand, I believe we deserve a moment of conversation." The queen's eyes narrowed dangerously, but Princess Sorina interjected before her mother could refuse. "A reasonable request, mother. Our laws grant this much to potential suitors, even in traditional marriages." After a tense moment, Queen Zephyra nodded curtly. "You have until sunset, then the Guardian will summon you for the first trial." As the court session ended, Thalen found himself walking beside Princess Sorina through the palace gardens. Luminescent flowers bloomed along the path, responding to their presence by glowing brighter. "You should not have accepted," Sorina said quietly when they were beyond earshot of the guards. "No one survives the Guardian's trials." "I don't have a choice," Thalen replied. "Without the heart, my people will perish." She stopped beside a fountain where liquid silver cascaded over crystal formations. "And what of me? Do you find it agreeable to claim a stranger as your bride?" Thalen faced her directly. "I meant no disrespect, princess, but I couldn't refuse the terms without losing any chance of obtaining the heart." Her expression softened slightly. "You speak honestly, at least." She traced patterns in the fountain's surface. "Few would admit such pragmatism." "I'm curious, though," Thalen ventured. "You seemed knowledgeable about the connection between our worlds. Most Neverlighters consider moon dwellers beneath them." A small smile touched her lips. "I study the old ways, the true history, not the revised versions my mother prefers." She glanced around before continuing. "Our worlds were once one civilization before the Great Sundering." "That's what our elders teach as well," Thalen acknowledged, surprised by her admission. "The Guardian isn't just a monster as everyone believes," Sorina whispered. "It's a keeper of balance and the trials. They test more than strength or courage." Before Thalen could inquire further, a distant bell tolled. The sun was beginning its descent. "You must prepare," Sorina said urgently. "The first trial always takes place in the crystal forest. Most fail before they even reach the heart of it." "Any advice?" Thalen asked, attempting a smile despite the gravity of his situation. Princess Sorina hesitated, then reached for the pendant around her neck, a small crystal that seemed to contain a swirling mist within. She removed it and placed it in his palm. "This belonged to the last moon dweller who attempted the trials," she explained. He was kind to me when I was a child before he failed. Perhaps it will serve you better." Thalen closed his fingers around the pendant, feeling an unexpected warmth emanate from it. "Thank you, princess." "Sorina," she corrected gently. "If we are to be betrothed, even temporarily, you should use my name." As the final rays of sunlight painted the crystalline towers of Luminar in gold and crimson, Thalen stood at the edge of the palace grounds, facing the distant shimmer of the crystal forest. The pendant from Sorina hung around his neck, its subtle glow providing strange comfort. A low, resonant hum began to fill the air, the summons of the Guardian. Thalen took a deep breath, his resolution strengthening for his people, for the colonies, and perhaps, though he hardly dared admit it, for the intriguing princess with lavender skin and wisdom beyond her years. The impossible bargain had been struck. Now he had to survive to claim his prize. The crystal forest stretched before Thalen like a frozen ocean, each tree a magnificent formation of translucent quartz that captured and refracted the fatting twilight. What appeared beautiful from a distance revealed its treachery up close. Razor-sharp edges lined every branch, and the ground itself was carpeted with crystalline shards that glinted hungrily in the dim light. Thalen adjusted the protective wrappings around his boots, grateful for the thick leather guards he'd brought from the moon colonies. The air here felt heavy, laden with an ancient magic that made his skin prickle beneath his azure complexion. "First trial, find the heart of the forest," he muttered to himself, recalling the Guardian's cryptic instructions delivered through a swirling vortex of shadow and light. No further explanation had been offered, only the warning that he had until the rising of the twin moons to complete his task. As he ventured deeper, the crystal formations grew taller, more elaborate, creating a maze that shifted with the changing light. Each breath formed a small cloud in the increasingly frigid air. The pendant Sorina had given him pulsed gently against his chest, offering subtle warmth that countered the forest's bitter chill. After an hour of careful navigation, Thalen paused beside a particularly large formation. The crystal here was different, darker, with swirling patterns like trapped smoke within its depths. He reached out, his blue fingers hovering just above the surface. "I wouldn't touch that if I were you," came a melodic voice from behind him. Thalen whirled around, his hand instinctively dropping to the dagger at his belt. Standing not 10 paces away was a woman unlike any he had seen on Neverlight. Her skin was a deep, rich green that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. Intricate patterns, like ancient runes, traced their way across her exposed shoulders and up her neck. Her hair, the color of dark emeralds, was adorned with small crystal beads that chimed softly when she moved. "Who are you?" Thalen demanded, not relaxing his stance. The woman smiled, revealing teeth that were just slightly too sharp to be comfortable. "A more relevant question might be, what am I doing here? Or perhaps, can I help you survive this trial?" She circled him with fluid grace, her bare feet somehow navigating the sharp crystal ground without injury. "My name is Vindra," she finally offered, stopping her circling. "I'm what the people of Luminar would call a forest witch, though I prefer keeper of forgotten knowledge." Thalen kept his eyes on her, unconvinced. The Guardian said nothing about companions on this trial. Vindra laughed, the sound like tinkling crystal. "The Guardian says many things and nothing at all. The trials have rules, yes, but they're not what you think." She gestured to the crystal he had nearly touched. "That formation, for instance, feeds on life energy. One touch would have drained you completely." Despite his suspicion, Thalen took a step back from the dark crystal. "Why would you help me?" "Perhaps I'm bored. Perhaps I have my own reasons for wanting someone to succeed after so many centuries of failure." Vindra plucked a small crystal from a nearby formation with practiced ease. "Or perhaps I simply enjoy watching the Queen's games unravel." "You know Queen Zephyra?" Vindra's expression darkened momentarily. "We have history, but that's not important right now. What matters is finding the heart of the forest before moonrise, yes." Thalen nodded cautiously. "Do you know where it is?" "Of course I do," she replied, tossing the crystal from hand to hand. "I know everything about this forest, but knowledge freely given has no value in the trials. I can point you in the right direction, but you must find the answers yourself." Meanwhile, in the eastern tower of Luminar Palace, Princess Sorana paced the length of her chambers, pausing occasionally to gaze out toward the crystal forest. The distant formations glittered under the setting sun, beautiful and deadly, just like everything else in her mother's kingdom. "You shouldn't worry about him," said her handmaiden Jyoti, a young woman with pale pink skin who had served the princess since childhood. "No one has completed the trials in generations." "That's precisely why I worry," Sorana replied, pressing her palm against the cool glass. "He's different from the others." Jyoti arranged flowers in a vase, her movements delicate and precise. "Because he's a moon dweller, or because you find him handsome?" Sorana turned, a flush deepening her lavender complexion. "Because he came for his people, not for power or glory, and because—" She hesitated, fingering the empty space at her neck where her pendant usually hung. "Because I've seen him in my dreams." Jyoti nearly dropped the vase. "Princess, you didn't tell me." "I wasn't certain until I saw him today," Sorana admitted. "But the signs are there. The silver flecks in his eyes, the mark on his left wrist shaped like the ancient rune for bridge. He's the one the prophecies speak of." "Does the Queen know?" Sorana shook her head. "Mother sees only what she wishes to see. She offered my hand because she believes no one can survive the trials. It costs her nothing to make empty promises." A knock at the door interrupted them. 2 royal guards entered, followed by Queen Zephyra herself, her crimson skin almost black in the fading light. "Daughter," the Queen said, her tone pleasant but her eyes calculating. "I thought we might watch the trial together. The Guardian has graciously provided a viewing portal." Sorana composed herself, hiding her concern behind a mask of regal indifference. "How thoughtful of you, Mother." The Queen motioned to the guards, who carried an ornate mirror framed in twisted silver. They positioned it on the wall, where its surface rippled like disturbed water before clearing to reveal an image of Thalen making his way through the crystal forest, with Vindra at his side. "Interesting," Queen Zephyra murmured. "The forest witch has decided to interfere again, not that it will help him." Sorana studied the image, relief and concern battling within her. Vindra was unpredictable, dangerous even, but she knew the forest better than anyone. "The trials allow for guides, Mother. It's written in the ancient texts." Guides, yes, but that witch has her own agenda. The queen moved closer to the mirror, her reflection merging with the image of the forest. She has always been a thorn in my side. Back in the crystal forest, Thalen followed Vindra through an increasingly complex maze of crystal formations. The paths narrowed, sometimes forcing them to turn sideways to squeeze through. The light was fading rapidly. The heart isn't a physical thing, Vindra explained as they walked. At least not entirely. It's the forest's consciousness, its core. How do I find something that isn't physical? Thalen asked, frustration edging his voice as he checked the position of the setting sun. Time was running short. Vindra smiled enigmatically. Everything in this forest is connected. The crystals grow from the same source, feed from the same energy. She stopped suddenly, placing her hand on a clear crystal pillar. Listen. Thalen hesitated before placing his palm against the cool surface. At first he felt nothing, but then, a vibration subtle but unmistakable. It pulsed in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat, he whispered. Vindra nodded. Follow it, that's your path. As they pressed deeper into the forest, the vibrations grew stronger. The crystal formations changed too, becoming clearer, more pristine. But with this beauty came increased danger. Twice, Vindra pulled Thalen back from seemingly safe paths that would have led him into deadly traps. Why are you really helping me? Thalen asked during a brief rest. The forest had grown so dense that the sky was barely visible. Vindra's expression grew serious, all playfulness gone. Balance, she said simply. The queen hoards the celestial heart for herself, but it was never meant to remain in one place. The ancient covenant demands movement, exchange. She glanced at him sharply. Your princess knows this. It's why she gave you that pendant. Thalen touched Sorana's gift. She's not my princess. No, Vindra raised an eyebrow. Then why does her essence surround you like a second skin? That pendant carries more than just her goodwill, moon dweller. Before Thalen could respond, a distant crystalline chime sounded, the first warning of moonrise. They had less than an hour remaining. We must hurry, Vindra urged, leading him toward a narrow ravine where the crystals grew so close together they formed a translucent tunnel. As they descended, the air grew warmer, charged with N. Part 3, The Abyss of Ancient Shadows. Dawn broke over Neverlight with a whisper, not a roar. Pale amber light crept across the landscape, revealing the vast chasm that split the earth like a wound just beyond the palace grounds. This was the Abyss of Ancient Shadows, a place where darkness dwelled even in brightest day, where echoes returned as voices not your own, and where, according to legend, the past and future collided in endless twilight. Thalen stood at its edge, the wind tugging at his clothes as he peered into the seemingly bottomless void. Unlike the crystal forest with its deadly beauty, the abyss offered no pretense of splendor, only primal fear disguised as emptiness. The rules of the second trial are simple, intoned the guardian's disembodied voice, a sound like thunder contained within silk. Descend to the heart of the abyss, retrieve what you have lost, return before the shadows consume your essence. Cryptic as ever, Thalen thought, securing his climbing gear. The success of the first trial had earned him no reprieve, no time to rest. The guardian had summoned him at first light, allowing only enough time to replenish his supplies. He hadn't seen Princess Sorana since his return from the Crystal Forest. The palace guards had escorted him directly to guest quarters, where he'd spent a restless night troubled by dreams of crystal trees singing his name and a lavender-skinned princess whose eyes held galaxies. Now, as he prepared to face the second trial, he found himself wishing he could have spoken with her, if only to return the pendant that had proven so crucial in the forest. It hung still around his neck, its mist now a swirling blend of silver green and twilight blue. What precisely have I lost? Thalen asked the empty air, knowing the guardian rarely provided straight answers but trying nonetheless. As expected, only silence greeted his question. With a resigned sigh, he secured the final knot in his climbing rope, anchoring it to a massive stone pillar that marked the official descent point. The rope, woven from the silk of moon spiders, was stronger than steel yet lighter than breath, the one advantage his moon colony heritage offered in these trials. With a final glance at the pale sun climbing the sky, Thalen began his descent into darkness. The walls of the abyss were unlike any rock formation he had encountered. Smooth in some places, jagged in others, they seemed to shift slightly when viewed from the corner of his eye. Stranger still was the darkness itself, not the mere absence of light, but something thicker, almost tangible, that pressed against his skin as he descended deeper. After what felt like hours, the rope end dangled in emptiness. He had reached its full length, yet the bottom of the abyss remained invisible below. Thalen secured himself to the wall and detached the rope, coiling it around his shoulder. From here, he would have to climb without its security. As he found handholds in the increasingly smooth rock face, his thoughts turned again to Sorana. There had been something in her eyes when she'd given him the pendant, a knowledge beyond her years, a certainty about his quest that he himself didn't possess. Was she merely another player in her mother's cruel game, or was there something more? "You think too loudly, Moon Dweller," came a voice from below, startling him so badly he nearly lost his grip. Thalen pressed himself against the rock face, peering downward. A faint purplish glow emerged from the darkness, gradually revealing a figure clinging to the wall not far below him, a figure with unmistakable lavender skin. "Sorana," he hissed, disbelieving, "what are you doing here?" The princess looked up, her pearl eyes reflecting the strange ambient light that seemed to emanate from her skin. "Helping you survive, obviously." She climbed upward with surprising agility until she reached his position. Mother would be furious if she knew. "This is madness," Thalen growled, genuine anger flaring. "The abyss is dangerous enough without." "Without someone who studied its secrets her entire life," Sorana interrupted, raising one eyebrow. "I've been preparing for this moment since I was a child, Thalen. I know the abyss better than anyone except the Guardian itself." Thalen stared at her, confusion warring with grudging admiration. The princess he'd met in the palace seemed transformed here, more confident, more alive somehow, as if the darkness brought out something essential in her nature. "Your mother said the trials must be faced alone," he argued, even as they both continued their careful descent. Sorana's laughter echoed softly against the walls. "My mother says many things, most of them shaped to serve her purposes." Her expression grew serious. "The true law of the trials states that no seeker may bring outside aid into the challenges. But I am not outside aid, Thalen. I am part of the trial itself." Before he could question her meaning, the rock beneath Thalen's foot crumbled. For one heart-stopping moment, he hung suspended by his fingertips. Then Sorana's hand shot out, grasping his wrist with surprising strength. "I've got you," she said, her voice steady as she helped him find new footing. "But we should hurry. The abyss knows we're here now. It will test us both." They descended in silence for a time, the darkness growing thicker around them. The ambient purple light that surrounded Sorana provided their only illumination, creating a small bubble of visibility in the overwhelming black. "Why did you really come?" Thalen finally asked as they paused on a narrow ledge to rest. Sorana was quiet for a moment, her gaze fixed on the darkness below. "Because I've seen what happens if you fail." She turned to him, her expression grave. "My gift isn't just royalty, Thalen. I see fragments of possible futures, glimpses, nothing more. Enough to know that your quest matters more than my mother understands." "The celestial heart," Thalen said with a nod. "My people." "It's more than that," she interrupted. "The heart isn't just a power source, it's a key, the last one. When it's returned to its proper cycle, something changes." She touched the pendant at his neck. "Something awakens." The pendant warmed beneath her touch, and Thalen felt a strange resonance pass between them, like recognition between long-separated parts of a whole. Their moment of connection shattered as a low moan rose from the depths, a sound of such profound sorrow that Thalen felt tears spring unbidden to his eyes. "We've reached the domain of the ancient shadows," Sorana whispered, her light dimming slightly. "They feed on emotion, particularly regret. Whatever happens, don't engage with the memories they show you." "Memories," Thalen began, but his question died as the darkness around them shifted, coalescing into shapes. No, scenes that played out on the very air. A young boy with blue skin stood alone on a barren landscape, watching as the last transport ship left without him. Thalen recognized himself, aged just 8, during the great evacuation of the outer moon Callista. He had been rescued hours later, but those moments of absolute abandonment had shaped him forever. "It's not real," Sorana's voice seemed distant despite her proximity. "Don't watch." But Thalen's gaze was locked on another scene forming. His father's face, disappointed and stern as a teenage Thalen explained why he was abandoning the family mining business to become an explorer. You'll never amount to anything chasing fantasies across the stars. His father's voice echoed, the words as cutting now as they had been 12 years ago. They're using your regrets against you, Sorana said urgently, grasping his arm. Her touch was warm against his increasingly cold skin. This is how the abyss claims its victims. It drains their will to continue by making them relive their darkest moments. With tremendous effort, Thalen tore his gaze from the scenes playing around them. How do we fight it? We don't, Sorana replied, her own expression tight with concentration. The shadows were circling her too, though Thalen couldn't see what images they were showing her. We acknowledge the regret, then release it. The shadows can only feed on what we cling to. Together they continued their descent, the shadow memories pressing closer with each step. Thalen saw himself failing his first navigation exam, remembered the crushing disappointment. He saw the girl who had broken his heart when she chose another suitor, recalled the sting of rejection. Each memory threatened to trap him in a spiral of might-have-beens. Beside him, Sorana moved with increasing difficulty, her light flickering as she battled her own shadows. Once she gasped aloud, her hand flying to her mouth as if to stifle a cry. Thalen didn't ask what she'd seen. Some burdens were too personal to share. After what seemed like hours of torment, the quality of the darkness changed. It thinned somewhat, revealing a cavern so vast that its far walls were invisible. The floor beneath their feet was smooth obsidian that reflected their distorted images like a dark mirror. In the center of the cavern stood a single pedestal of black stone, upon which rested nothing. I don't understand, Thalen said, approaching cautiously. What am I supposed to retrieve? There's nothing here. Sorana remained at the edge of the cavern, her expression troubled. The second trial asks you to retrieve what you have lost, but the abyss is cunning. It makes you confront what you never knew was missing. As Thalen neared the pedestal, the air above it shimmered. Slowly, an image formed, not a memory this time, but something more abstract. It showed him as he might have been, confident, fulfilled, surrounded by family and friends who valued him for himself, not for what he could achieve. It showed him happy. The realization struck with physical force. What he had lost, what had been taken from him, was not an object but a possibility. The path not taken, the life unlived in pursuit of proving himself. I lost myself, he whispered, understanding finally. Piece by piece, decision by decision. The image wavered, then solidified into a small crystal figurine, a miniature replica of himself as a child, eyes bright with hope and possibility rather than determination and duty. Take it, Sorana called from across the chamber. But be prepared, retrieving what is lost always exacts a price. Thalen reached for the figurine, his fingers closing around the cool crystal. The moment he lifted it from the pedestal, searing pain shot through his body. He cried out, falling to his knees as memories flooded him. Not just his regrets now, but every moment of joy he'd sacrificed, every connection he'd severed, every opportunity for happiness he'd abandoned in service to his mission. The crystal figurine burned in his hand, too hot to hold yet impossible to